Okay, everybody, we're going to start the session. So I'm the warm up band. So nice to see you all. And we had a great session yesterday. It was very exciting. Lots of really good discussion. Lots of good discussion at the reception and dinner afterwards. So we're looking forward to a very productive day today as well. So one thing I want to request everybody, I think, it's still, we're still in the COVID environment. So I would like to ask most of you or everybody to try to mask up and socially distance just to be safe on the safe side. We're not all COVID free, so just be careful, okay? We have some masks up here if people didn't bring their masks. Okay, before we start the session today, I wanted to give a brief introduction about the CDA for those of you who don't know the CDA. So the CDA became a center again about 2 years ago, and Mark and I are the directors. And so I'm just going to give a brief introduction, and then you'll have some more detailed descriptions of the CDA later on this morning. Okay. So essentially, the Center for Desert Agriculture, we are trying to find ways to feed the world without destroying the planet. Okay, I think we're all kind of here because of that, and this is both in terms of agriculture as well as in with native species. So this is this is KAUST. This is the CDA. This is our field site. I think that we're going to be having a tour today for some of you who want to go see our field site, and we've recently begun a center partnership fund with NCVC, and we're looking forward to opening up a new 300-hectare field site close to Thual in the coming year. So we've developed a strategic plan and an implementation plan. You don't have to read all this, but again, the bottom line is finding ways to feed the world without destroying the planet. So this is our team. We have a fantastic crew. We're composed of 10 faculty, and we go all the way from developmental biology to plant breeding and everything in between. So again, KAUST is it's called a small university. It's a graduate school only. We do train undergraduates here, and we have master's students and PhD students, but there's about 200 faculty here. I think we're targeting about 220. So our center is composed of 10, and that's a normal center size. We also have a fantastic operational staff, and you've met many of them here today in the audience. Anna, Luis, Dahlia, Rebecca, and many others. So we have a fantastic operational staff that's really supporting the CDA, as well as a talented technical research staff. The CDA is now up to about 200 scientists and staff. So we're here to partner with all of you in the audience to really try to make a big impact on food security and biodiversity protection. So we have kind of 5 general areas that I'm just going to go through really quickly. So we all do our 10 faculty. We run our basic research programs, and it's wet lab, field lab, computational, and then we have 3 applied research projects that we're all working on as a team. One of them is Fast Fit Palms, that's led by Ikram Blalou. And this is a project to develop palms that are more resilient, and she's going to talk to you about this today. One of the things that we want to do in Saudi, again, I think Mark said, how much water a single date drinks, a number that I use, date palm, 170 liters of water a day. That's a lot of water, and it's hotter than hell, and there's no water in Saudi Arabia. So how do we sustainably grow crops? So one idea is to try to make date palms more resilient. So one thing we want to do is try to develop a common garden of the 400 varieties of date palms that grow in this country, and do extensive above ground and below ground phenotyping, and pinpoint those phenotypes to positions on the date palm genome, so we could breed new varieties that are more resilient, but at the same time have the same quality that everybody is accustomed to. Our second project, led by Simon Krattinger, and he'll talk about that today as well, is called Neo-Domestication. And this is Neo-Domestication is essentially the concept of converting a wild plant, or a wild relative of a crop, into a crop plant. And this example here is a wild tomato using gene editing of several key traits. You can convert this plant that's well adapted to an extreme environment, but you can turn this into a crop plant. So we have many target species we're working on, and Simon will present some of that today, I believe. The last one that we're working on as a team is called the Native Genome Project, or the KSA Native Genome Project. This is being led by Nahid Mohammed, postdoctoral scientist in my group, and it's a collaboration with Ikram Blalou, Salim Al-Bibi, and Heribert Hurt in the lab, as well as essentially the rest of the CDA faculty. And the goal here is to sequence all aquatic and terrestrial life forms that are native to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or are endangered in Saudi Arabia. And this is to promote conservation and biodiversity, environmental monitoring and protection, and evolutionary analyses. So we have a project with NCVC a pilot project to work on 15 terrestrial ecosystems throughout the country. Another area that we're very interested in, again, hotter than hell, no water. We're trying to work on, we're promoting the idea of large-scale controlled environmental agriculture. And we talked quite a bit about that yesterday. And we're thinking that in Saudi Arabia, maybe a focus on high-value crops, using very water-saving methods that can, in greenhouses, that can really promote water savings and also produce high-value crops. So this stuff is produced locally, and then import much of the staples. So we talked about that. So that's a paradigm shift that we're trying to work on, and this is something we're going to be discussing the breakout sessions as well as the meeting tomorrow. One thing that's near and dear to my heart is education and outreach, and we also have had some discussions on food use, food waste. We've talked about working with the youth, and I think we really need to start with the youth. So I come from California, where there was a project called the Edible Schoolyard, led by a chef in Berkeley, California, where the school system is promoting locally sourced food and sustainable food. And this, the children are growing the plants in the school gardens. They're actually preparing the food and learning about the importance of healthy diets and about food waste, so on and so forth. And at the same time, with plants, you can learn anything from language and culture, all the way to physics, chemistry, and computer science by studying plants. So the goal of this Edible Schoolyard project essentially is to provide a free, sustainable lunch in the state of California from K through 12. So we would like to try to roll something like this out in Saudi Arabia, and working with you guys, because I think this would be a fantastic goal for the kingdom. Lastly, I'll just say that we're not only doing really basic science, but we're also doing translational science. And there's 3 companies that actually have spun out of the CDA right now: the Red Sea Farms, Edema, and Grow Biome. They have displays in the outside, and I encourage you to talk to them. That's some very exciting work that's going on there. And then there's also some additional companies in the ag space at KAUST. So with that, I'm just going to turn the microphone over to Paul, and thank you very much. And we're looking forward to working with you all on many projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rod. Salam alaikum. What a wonderful phrase. I learned this phrase yesterday. It's only my 2nd time to Saudi Arabia. What a beautiful way to start the day. Yesterday we had a whole series of presentations describing the challenges for sustainable food security in Saudi Arabia. And while there are many challenges, I think there was also a great sense of optimism. And today is really to build on that optimism and explore what are some of the opportunities and solutions that Saudi Arabia has to build sustainable food security. Just so that you know, yesterday we had 250 people online watching what was going on here today, so it's not just the people in this room. And anybody who's online watching now, you are most welcome, and I hope you enjoy the day here today as well. We're going to have some very quick summaries of the 4 sessions that we had yesterday. Before we have those summaries, I might try and pull out perhaps just a few of the overarching themes that we were exposed to yesterday. One that really stood out to me was the need for data to underpin good decision making. And I think there's a real challenge and a real opportunity to think about how do we build the infrastructure to collect the data around water, food, environment, food use in Saudi Arabia to really inform government policies going forward. Integration is going to be a challenge. You want to achieve food security and grow food, but you've got limited water resources. There are environmental impacts. So how do we integrate all of these drivers and all of these needs is going to be an interesting challenge. Quite a few people spoke about the new machinery of government that's being put in place to try and address these challenges. And are there more machinery of government changes that we might need to make to ensure this integration, harmonise the strategies across the different areas? Another common theme that came out for me yesterday was grow your own food where it makes sense. So how do we know what makes sense and what's the right things for us to be producing here in Saudi Arabia? And then diversify your food imports where you need to import to account for supply chain disruption. There are all sorts of things that can disrupt the supply chain. We heard about a lot of them yesterday. So diversify your food imports so you're not reliant on just one area. Mitigate and plan for climate change was obviously a very strong theme. Food security does not mean self-sufficiency. So a country like Singapore has no self-sufficiency. It produces almost no food, but it has one of the highest food security indexes in the world because it has this diversified supply of food. But food security does mean food benefits for people. So food security is not just about how many calories, how much protein do we import, but are we benefiting the people here in Saudi Arabia with the food that they're consuming? And the perennial challenge for all governments all around the world is how does government work together with the other civic institutions and the community to achieve real change? And that challenge still remains on the table. But today we're exploring solutions to food security challenges facing the kingdom. To set the scene, we will have a summary from each of the fantastic session chairs from yesterday. Each chair were formally introduced yesterday, so I won't repeat all of those introductions again. If you weren't here yesterday, their biographies are in the program. So to start off with a 2-minute summary, Dr. Suliman will talk about food supply issues. It was a really interesting discussion yesterday, a presentation and series of discussions around food supply. So Dr. Suliman, if I could ask you to come to the stage and just give us a brief summary of what you learned from your program yesterday. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning, and it is, yes, I will just talk about the challenges, and nothing will be touched regarding solutions or the any plan for future. Yes, it is a good meeting yesterday, this good discussion, and I think there are some information come to my mind for the first time. I will just put in the end of my talk today, I will just take a statement from Dr. Asmahan, just to encourage ourselves to go further. In this short time slot, 2 minutes, I would like to put an example of water scarcity, which is one of the most important issue raised for agriculture. And let me put it in another statement: no food without water. So if there is no water, there is no food. Unless we will go to gas-based proteins or food, and we will go to culture meat and etc., which is something new for us. When I categorize these challenges, it was come in 13 main category, and I will go briefly in it. Water resources and not water scarcity is one of the issue that raised. And when I'm talking about water resources, this is, we need to look for a new source of water, maybe retreated water, water harvesting, etc. So we need to think about the water and as a resource, and we need to also push in the technology used to deliver this water for the farmers. And this is a very important challenge. We face it, and I think we need to think about it. There are food supply. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia aim to ensure availability and access to sustainable, safe, affordable, and nutritious food that is currently considered as a challenge. So it is very important to think about food supply and the better life, okay, and let us put it this way, quality of life. So we are not targeting here in Saudi Arabia the cheap food. We can import it in a very low prices, but this is not our goal. This is not our mission. So we need to think about a very good quality of food, nutrition food, and also to supply it in affordable, in accessible, and in good manner. Environmental degradation, and I think I will leave it for the fourth section, but we have biophysical constraints, and this is related to temperature, to elevated level of evapotranspiration, to the salinity, to the soil quality, which is not suitable to grow some crops, like the weather in rice, for example, and also soybean if we would like to do it. And so we need to put the biophysical constraints as one of the challenge that we will face it when we deliver or plan for our food system. International trade agreement, it is also one of the challenges that we are facing. So Saudi Arabia, as all of you know, is open country, and it's open for a very free trade between the countries. We can't put it in this way. So the obligation toward international agreement limit the possibility to using policy to protect local production. So we will not go. I will not be able to prevent tomato come from neighbor country because there is no bylaw give me the chance to do it. So I need to put my farmer in the right position to compete with the imported commodities and think wisely in that mean. There are low investment in R&D and capacity building, and this is the labors should be, and the extension services should be developed. And we'll discuss how what is the plan of MEWA in this issue. Lack of direct channel for sales and marketing and services for small farmers, and this is challenges. And you notice this every peak season of commodity, and that it is available in the market with less than 10 halal per kg. And this is challenging. There are a low level of productivity of a crop and livestock. And Dr. Roth, thank you for this introduction. And I hope that genome editing, breeding programs will lead to a high productive local variety here in Saudi Arabia. And I would like to see this program here in KAUST to be one of the programs launched from this summit. There are a lack of weakness of agriculture cooperative, and this model is a very important in the world, and so we would like to see it. There are the access of data is not lack of data. There are a lot of data but there are an access to the data itself. But MEWA invest for more than 150 million Saudi riyal for data in agriculture sector. It's available, it's there, but maybe the access of the data and maybe this is an information. So we know what we are growing in the regions, in the district, and in the level of in the farm itself. So if you give me just your ID, I will know where your farms distributed in the kingdom, what the wells you are there, what's the crops that you are growing, and what your production, just from your ID. We know it. And we work with KAUST in this project. It's finished. It's maybe there are still one region, Sasir, and it will be finished within end of the March. The other is available. So it's maybe the access of the data for agriculture. I'm talking about agriculture. There are uncertainty of foreign direct investment. Sattam talk about it, and they're changing global scenarios and situations. This is an issue. So investment abroad is important, yes, for a country like Saudi Arabia, but there are some high risk in some investment. We need to think about it. High level of food loss and waste also is a challenge that we are facing here in Saudi Arabia, and consumption patterns, something like this, we need to think about it and put solutions. And in the end, I will quote the statement of Dr. Asmahan Al-Wafi: we should move very quickly. We got all ingredients and components for success. Thank you very much.
Professor Matthew McCabe was the chair for the second session around water supply. Professor McCabe has been called out this morning for an urgent meeting, and so he's asked me to give a summary. He'll be back later today for his session. But if you don't mind, I'll just go through a very quick summary of the water use session. Saudi Arabia, like my country, Australia, is mostly desert, but you are blessed with huge underground lakes, massive underground lakes. And this is a one-off gift for Saudi Arabia. You get to use this water once, and then it's gone. You can't use it again. It will not be replenished. Water in Saudi Arabia is being used very rapidly at the moment, and perhaps has tens of years or maybe a couple of 100 years, and then it will be gone. So how do you use this gift that you've been given most wisely was the challenge of this session. So the first one, I think, was to understand and measure what is the water resources and what are their timelines. There was a lot of talk about how do we value the water resources, how do we place a value on these resources so that people are more motivated to use them wisely. And we know that when something has value, we treat it with more respect. And I think perhaps there's an opportunity here for Saudi Arabia to become leaders in the world in how to wisely use water resources. You have this big population, you have this big challenge to feed a population, you have this gift of these amazing underground water lakes, but how do you use that water most respectfully and most sustainably? The cultural and political challenge is to bring about that change in a way that is acceptable. In every country, this is the same. It's no different. Water is the key. As Dr. Suliman said, water is the key to a local supply of food. You can buy time by using this water more wisely and become more efficient. And so that is really the challenge for today, is to think about what are those solutions? How can we use this water more wisely and extract greater value from it? So that was Professor McCabe and his summary. The third chair for yesterday was around food use, and Dr. Majid led a very interesting session with a really fantastic conversation between the speakers and the audience following that session. So Dr. Majid, if I could ask you to come to the stage and just give a 2-minute summary of your session, that would be fantastic. Thank you.